Ruth, yeah, the recording has now started, so we're now going live.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So can I welcome everyone to the Quinton Ward Forum meeting being held online via Microsoft's Teams today, Wednesday, 10th of March. It's an online meeting. We've allowed an hour and a half for this meeting, so we will be finishing at 7:30. Can I welcome everyone and introduce myself? My name's Councillor Kate Booth. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children's Wellbeing in Birmingham, but I'm also, most importantly, the Councillor for Quinton Ward. Just to remind you, we were a ward that had 3 councillors. On the reorganisation, we went down to 2 councillors. We're a 2-member ward, but we have not had that second councillor now for over a year. We have got, as I'm sure you're aware, a by-election, which is going to be taking place on the first Thursday in May, and hopefully I will in future have someone to help me out to help run the ward. Can I thank you all for coming this evening? Can I give you notice of recording? Everybody who is on the call, you're taking part in an online meeting, and a recording of this meeting will be available, I believe, in perpetuity for future records, so be aware of that. We've got quite a tight schedule this evening because we are packing it full of lots of people. I'm aware that Marie, you wanted to be moved up the agenda a little bit. So what I'm going to propose, because I know that Hamira is ready and knows she's going to be first on the agenda from public health, I'm going to leave her as first. And I think we're going to be okay. We'll be okay with me because you're third, as it were, on the agenda. So what I'm going to do, if it's all right with everybody else, and I apologise, I'm trying to run my screen and run everything else. I can see Elliot Hurst has got his hand up. Elliot, did you want to make a comment before we move to the first item? I can't hear you, Elliot. I think you're on mute. Okay, Elliot, I'm going to assume that your hand was up by accident and I've lowered it for you. Okay, so Hamira, if I could call on Hamira Sultan. Hamira is here to talk to us about 2 things. She's going to talk to us initially about public health, and then I think you're going to tell us about the Big Parts Accelerator Programme, or is it Green Spaces, whatever it is. So welcome, Hamira.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Booth. My toddler, my 4-year-old son, seems to have camped right next to me. So, if I can just possibly just get my husband, I'll just be literally a minute, see if he can take him away. Just bear with me.
It's all fun again.
Yeah, okay. I think we've got a deal. We're going to be quiet. So let's see if that works. So good evening, everybody. My name's Hamira Sultan. I'm a public health consultant, as Councillor Booth said. I'm firstly going to give you a very quick COVID-19 update. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you folks might have. So it is good news in terms of our case rate for over the last 7-day period. So, it's taken us a little while to get below the 100 cases per 100,000, but we're now, I'm really pleased to report, down at 86.5 cases per 100,000. If you were to look at us from the week previously, this is from the 20th of Feb to the 26th of Feb, we were at about 130. So between the end of Feb and the 5th of March, because there's always a bit of a time delay, we're down to 86.5 cases. So it's going in the right direction. But we are still higher than the rest of England, than the average England rate. In terms of where we do rank in terms of other local authorities in England, with our COVID-19 rate, we're the 36th highest now in the country. So, and again, I've been saying the same thing, it feels like, for the last year. The spread that we're seeing in the community is still happening because of households mixing, whether that's from social interactions or through workplace interactions. So that's still a really strong message for us to be pushing as much as possible. Is we are still in lockdown. We're asking people very much, unless they're in some kind of support bubble or childcare bubble, to stay in their own homes. When you kind of look at other places in the West Midlands, so we often, Birmingham is compared to other parts of the West Midlands region, and places like, for instance, Sandwell, Stoke-on-Trent, and also Walsall are slightly higher than us at the moment in terms of our case rate. And when you also look at us compared to what we call the core cities, so these are places like Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, Newcastle upon Tyne, Sheffield, Nottingham and Bristol. Again, we're kind of sort of middling in those cities with our case rate as well. So Nottingham has a higher rate than us at 93 cases per 100,000, and also Leeds has a higher case, 97 per 100,000. So in terms of the Quinton ward itself, how is that looking in terms of COVID? So we've got 69 wards in the city, and the ranking of 1 is where we have the highest number of cases, and 69th is the lowest. So in the week of the 7th of March, we had 10 reported cases in Quinton. So that kind of put Quinton at about the 42nd out of 69 wards. When you also look at kind of, you know, which kind, how in terms of the population and who's getting. Lisa, can you be really quiet for just 1 minute? Okay. Sorry, folks. The joys of mixing work and home at the moment.
Mum, I don't have which way to go with the map.
I'll come help you in a minute, okay?
No, I know.
So we've got, you know, just under half the cases.
Mommy, I know how to do this.
Okay, great.
I can do it all by myself.
Okay, he's going through quite an independent phase at the moment. So just under half of the cases that we're seeing in Quinton are in the kind of 20 to 39 age group. And we know that's the kind of age people are going back to work, and also in terms of kind of where most social interactions are happening as well. So just very quickly on the vaccination program as well. So, you know, it's rolling out and it's moving down the priority lists. So as a council, we do publish data regularly on our vaccine uptake on CMIS, which is the main platform for which paperwork, any kind of council-related paperwork, is shared with the public and our residents. So in terms of how we're achieving our vaccination targets, it does really vary depending on you know, which priority group we're talking about. So for instance, those who are you know, in one of the first priority groups, kind of 80 years and over, we're hitting between probably 86 to 90% there. But as you kind of go down, you know, we're now vaccinating people who are 55 years of age and over, and we've probably hit about 45% for that. But you know, this is quite recent in terms of this particular rollout. We also know the vaccination rate also varies according to ethnicity as well, with some of our ethnic minority groups showing lower uptake rates. We know that GPs are working incredibly hard at the moment, you know, making individual phone calls to people who are supposed to come for a vaccination but haven't. And we are seeing some success in terms of people changing their mind and actually coming for the vaccination. Just in terms of the Edgbaston constituency, in terms of course, which Quinton is in, if I just kind of share some data with you about you know, kind of what is the percentage uptake of the first dose of COVID vaccination. It's looking quite high compared to other parts of Birmingham. So, you know, 91% of Quinton's 80-year-olds have been vaccinated, and those kind of with the clinical who are clinical extremely vulnerable, just over 80% of those have been vaccinated. So definitely, I would say Quinton is looking much better in terms of vaccination rates than other parts of Birmingham. Quinton also has 18 COVID-19 champions, which is great, but we're always looking for more. And if anybody's interested, I will post into the chat a link for how you can actually access the COVID-19 Community Champion Programme. Essentially, we're asking people to join this programme to help spread, you know, positive messages about COVID-19 in terms of the kind of things that we want people to be doing. The message around washing your hands, distance are all still really important, even whilst we're going through the vaccination programme. So it's great that we've got 18 already in Quinton, but we'd always welcome some more. So I will post that councillor brief in the chat. I think I'll just pause there briefly for any questions, if that's okay.
If anybody would like to indicate if they've got a question, if you'd like to put the hand up, someone's got the hand up. I'm just trying to identify who that is. So, oh, it's not showing me who it is. Could I ask what the person who's got their hand up to speak out, please?
I got my hand up, Kate.
Lovely. Is that Patrick Saunders?
It is, yeah.
Lovely, Patrick. Thank you.
Hello, Hamira.
Hello, Pat. I do know Pat from a long time ago. Lovely to see you.
And same here. I'd just like to make a comment, two comments. I think how Birmingham Public Health has responded to COVID has been an absolute triumph. And you deserve huge credit. Justin Varney has just been so impressive. And I'm a public health consultant as well, as you know. And I raised a question with Justin about a month ago about the vaccination rate amongst the housebound elderly, many of whom are extremely vulnerable. And I think it's surprise to a lot of people that that's a huge population. It's about the same size as the population that's in care homes. And of course, the care home program has been rolled out very quickly. And I know of cases elsewhere in the region where 100-year-old parents haven't received their vaccine, whereas their 70-year-old children have. And I was concerned this was happening in Birmingham. But at the West Birmingham residents meeting that Justin was at, the chap from the CCG told me that every single housebound, vulnerable elderly person in Birmingham had been offered a vaccine. And I think that's an absolute triumph. So well done, you. And in terms of the COVID champions, you said 18 COVID champions in Quinton.
Go on.
7 of those are Labour Party members.
Go on.
Patrick, yep. No need to do that. Can I bring in Dominic? You have your hand up, Dominic?
Oh yeah, Hamira, I was wondering if you could answer a quick question for me. I was involved in the rollout of community testing sites in the pharmacies across the Birmingham city. Could you give us a quick update on how kind of well taken up they have been in the pharmacies in Quinton?
Oh, thanks, Dominic, for your question. Issa's decided to come and join us. In terms, I'll have to admit, I don't have the figures to hand, Dominic, but I know it's been growing every week, and we've seen a really positive response from pharmacists in terms of responding to kind of the, you know, the to respond to you know, our request to help support the NFD testing. And I know that some pharmacists, especially being open on weekends as well, has really helped. In terms of kind of, you know, people that do work kind of, you know, really busy hours in the week and so forth. So, but what I will do is I'll make sure that Beverly has Issa.
And this one.
Okay, I'll get it for you in a second. I'll make sure Beverly is kept an up-to-date list of all our pharmacies are. I'm so sorry, this wasn't part of the plan tonight. And we'll make sure that everybody will get access to that, so you can see what's available. Definitely, we're really pleased with the pharmacy effort.
Join, Mommy, join.
I've got Samantha with her hands up.
Thank you. Hamira, thank you first of all for sharing all that information really clearly, and to just say your son is very cute. As an overjoyed mother, my daughter went back to school this week. I have agreed for her to be tested. I have no problem with it, but a lot of parents are refusing to give their consent because they're worried about false positives on lateral flow tests. And I just wondered whether you could offer any reassurance to parents who are refusing or hesitant because they don't want their kids sent home unnecessarily.
Are you finished now?
So thank you, Samantha, for your question. And I would say that LFDs are very unlikely to give a false positive, really. I'll be back in literally 10 seconds, Councillor Booth. I'm so sorry about this. Hang on. Lisa, John, but why have we got the jobs bits? Mark, he sat on my lap making things more than
Elliot, I'm sorry, I struggled to get in. I kept on asking these meetings would take. Welcome back, Mira. Mira, you're on mute.
Thank you. They're absolutely designed to pick up people that are most infectious and with a lot of viral load. So if it's coming back as positive, it's very likely that it is positive. We'd be more worried about false negatives actually with LFDs. So, and I guess, you know, it's not as sensitive as a PCR test. It needs quite a lot of virus to be picked up. So, and you know, so just because you don't have a positive test doesn't mean you don't have COVID, if that makes sense. So, because you could still be kind of incubating the virus, but it's not high enough.
Mummy,
but yes, baby.
I want to go to your friend.
You want to talk to my friend? You can say something. What would you like to say? Do you want to say hello? No. Okay. So I would absolutely be saying not to be worried about false positives.
Mum, say it.
So it's.
Mummy, say it. Big cat.
And I'm very happy. I mean, is it parents in a school, Samantha, or just that you're hearing in the parent community at the moment?
Mummy, Mom,
I know it's
Mummy,
parents at my daughter's school, and it's other schools as well. My nephew goes to Lordswood Boys, which is just on the edge, and overwhelmingly their parents are refusing to give their consent. They're particularly bolstered today because there was a big article on the BBC News from the Royal Statistical Society about false positives, and a lot of parents are saying, well, they don't think it's okay, so why should we? And we all know that kids have, so, you know, a lot of kids have fallen behind with all the time they've had off. So it's really important to get our kids back as soon as we can. And I just wondered if there was any sort of quick sort of a link or something that I could refer some of the people I talked to say, look, we understand your concerns, but here's the science. You can be reassured about it.
So what I'll do when I go back to the office, when I get back to my laptop, what I'll do, Samantha, is I'll speak to one of our consultants in public health who's working also in education now, and we'll see if we can kind of draft out some messaging to send out to parents.
I think that would really help, so we can overcome the hesitancy, so we can get more kids back, because the sooner we get them all back, the better.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the reason we're doing the LFD is to pick out those people that haven't got symptoms and are positive, which would otherwise just be infecting others. So we absolutely want it to continue. So yeah, anything we can do to help that. So yeah, we'll get that sorted for you, Samantha. No problem.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
To get that to you, if I send it to Beverly as well, and she can circulate it to you to get out in your networks.
Absolutely, yeah, that's fine. All right, I'm quite happy to put a message with my email address. More than happy for that. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Mira. Thank you.
We've got Dominic with his hand again.
Sorry, I thought I'd jump in there. I literally today on the gov.uk website, the government have released a new study which has shown that the lateral flow tests are 99.9%. Have a specificity of at least 99.9%. So it might be worth, if you just Google literally lateral flow test false positive.
Oh God, come on.
Up, and it's from gov.uk. So it's obviously a legitimate source, which might be worth sharing with your friends that are concerned, Samantha.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
And I did notice initially they were saying that the false positives, it was recorded, it was being very high, but they've actually said it's probably 1 or maybe at the most 3 in 1,000 they're talking about, which actually is quite low. And I think, you know, you can always move on and have one of the other tests after that. So I think it's going well in school, but I have been disappointed by the number of parents who have been refusing to allow their children to have the test. I'm going to go to Bert. Bert Duncan has his hand up. No, I'm not getting anything from Bert. Bert, did you know your
Sorry,
hand?
yeah, no, I'm on mute, sorry.
That's okay.
Just on the lateral flow testing scenario, my wife works in the NHS, so is doing lateral flow testing regularly. Are parents I'm assuming parents have been told that if they get a positive lateral flow test, they still have to then have a PCR test to validate it. So a positive positive lateral flow does not necessarily mean they'll be treated as positive.
If I can answer that to Bert, so it depends on where they're doing it. If it's in a home setting, then yes, we're asking them to have a positive, to get a confirmatory PCR. If it's done under a test site condition, so actually it's being monitored, so say in a pharmacy or in the school itself, where we've actually got people trained to actually, well, not to kind of do the testing, but to be there to support the testing process. There is obviously an issue in terms of the testing. Is you have to get the swab down far enough to be able to be sure that you've actually picked up enough sample to be tested. So so it really depends on the setup of where the testing is taking place.
Okay, but for me then that would probably cause more confusion. So maybe that's also something to consider. Okay.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Bert. I'm going to move Hamira on now because I'm just looking at the time. We've got a lot packed in today. Hamira, can I ask you to tell us about the Future Parks Accelerated Green Champions now?
Absolutely, Councillor Booth. So I've got a presentation, but I'm not going to go through it now because I know we haven't got much time. But what I will do, I'll send it to Beverly. Again, Beverly's my main mechanism to get anything out at the moment, so apologies, Beverly. But essentially, just in a nutshell, the Future Parks programme is all about how do we embed the value of green spaces across the whole council and amongst as many communities in Birmingham as possible. We're trying to move away from the park service being, the one place where all parks activity, green space activity takes place. So we're working with employment, we're working with children's education, working with the Children's Trust, working with employability and skills, public health and wellbeing, as well as planning and housing as well. The point that we're trying to get to is that people think about nature first and not last, regardless of what their job is. So we absolutely believe that nature can be embedded into education, into employability, into jobs, into housing and development, into public health and wellbeing initiatives. So what the Green Champions programme is trying to do essentially is help those people who might not have that much knowledge about green spaces yet. They've got a bit of an interest, they're curious about it. We want to develop the next generation of people who are going to be supporting our green spaces. And I know we've got definitely at least one Friends of Park group that's quite active in Quinton. But we also know that Friends of Park and their demographics generally, tend to be older people, those who've got more time, who are retired and so forth. But we need to make sure we have a next generation of people coming through who are going to be just as enthusiastic about green spaces. So it's a 4-month programme with four workshops. We've just had the launch event, but it's no problem if you're interested and you've got time and you haven't been able to make that. We can send you the recording and the notes and so forth. But essentially, if you're at all interested in green spaces and think that you've got some time to offer and you think you could make it either as part of the community that you're in or as part of the job that you do, you think you could find a way of bringing that into some part of your life, then we'd absolutely love to work with you. And I'll send out again via Beverly the main person to contact. I'll pop his name in the chat here. It's Daniel Lloyd, who is my project officer for the Future Parks programme. Who's extremely helpful and will be delighted to kind of work with you on that if you're interested. Very happy to answer any quick questions on that, Councillor Booth.
We've got a question from Barry.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, Hamira, there's lots going on in Quinton about green spaces and lots of people who are involved in green spaces, and we're trying at the moment to have a big event in the summer, which you really do need to know about. So I'm glad to hear of anything that is going to promote green spaces, and I'm sure everybody else on here is as well. But we do need to have a process that doesn't take years. We do need to have a process that isn't overcomplicated. So, for instance, to hold an event, there's a 168-page document that you plough through to work out where you fit in, and it's a necessary document. I'm not decrying the document. I know Sue's there at the moment because we're in conversation with her. But these things, everything that is happening in speak and policy and futures. And we have some pressing needs at the moment to speed up the processes that are already there to help communities to do what you're asking, and certainly to bring forward a younger generation. So at some point, if you like, I'd like to have a conversation with you and maybe Kate, and I'm sure some others would, about just that process.
I've just popped in the chat, Barry, my email address. So
yeah.
And I'll make sure that Beverly kind of, can circulate that as well to everybody here. But I'd be, we're supposed to have quite a simple use of parks form. So this 168-page document, I'm really intrigued what that is. So yeah, I'd be very happy to talk.
Well, I can tell you, it's and it's got good stuff in it, but it's very off-putting.
Okay.
It's done by the Parks events team, so we're making contact with them to try and simplify that process. Okay, so yeah, you need to be factored in for what you're doing. You need to be factored in with what we're actually trying to achieve and are achieving in Quinton. So okay. Yeah, great.
Please
thank you.
Drop me a line.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks for that, Barry. I can't see anybody else's hands up. I think the document you're referring to is one that's a cover-all, isn't it, for all the parks? And I think you're right, it probably needs slimming down for particular events so people can go straight to the bit that matters to them. Thanks for that, Hamira. That was really helpful. And I think did you say you're going to pop your address in the chat? Can't manage to see the chat, but that's fantastic. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the additional entertainment of your delightful son. And we'll let you get away now so you can look after him for the rest of the evening.
Thanks so much, Booth. Lovely to meet you all. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a lovely evening, won't you? So next I'm going to call on Alison. Alison's going to tell us about the census.
Yes, hello everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. I'm one of the census engagement managers for Birmingham, and it's census year. It only happens once every 10 years. You might have seen all the adverts. Census Day is March the 21st, so it's coming up very soon. So I'm just here to tell you about the help available, the reasons why it's so important that you take part, and also give you details about, I'll put them in the chat, but my email, and we're also on Twitter on @censusbrumsouth. So if you need any help, please get in touch. But basically, if you've probably done your family tree, you know about the census and about things that happened over 100 years ago, but the real reason for the census and its importance is that all the information you give and everyone takes part means that is then anonymised, and after a year that high level data is what the local council, the government use in order to decide the amount of investment that communities get. So if there's an area where there's a lot of women who are about to be of childbearing age over the next 10 years, they can plan for midwives, for healthcare, for doctor services, for bus services. So the more people that take part, the more important it is to get your community what it needs. It is actually a legal requirement to take part, and you should be getting letters in the post right now that look a bit like this, and they'll say about there's £1,000 fine if you don't fill it in. And it is Census Day on the 21st, so that's the date that it's based on. But if you want to start filling it in straight away, you can go online because it's a digital first census, and you can fill it in as soon as you get it based on what will happen on the 21st. And because of COVID, actually a lot of us aren't going anywhere or moving around the country. So
I'm just all I'm bothered about.
I'm sorry, can we ask everybody to mute unless they're actually asking a question, please?
My questions.
Yes, but what can I suggest?
So there's a language line for people if you need help with translations or doing the census. If you need to request a paper copy, you can phone up, or you can actually get someone to request it for you online. If you don't get the letter by next week, you can actually go online and get a new code, because each letter has a code in it. You go onto the website, you put your code in, you fill your census in, and it has lots of information, like if you're on furlough, how you should fill it in, and if you're not, if you've been made redundant, then what answers to give in terms of your situation, because obviously things are very different at the moment, and this will be used for planning the next 10 years after COVID, after Brexit, all those sort of big decisions. So I'll put my details into the chat, but if anybody's got any questions, I can take them now.
That's great. I can see Catherine from Gateway Family Services has got her hand up. Catherine.
Hi everyone. Have I taken myself off? Yes, I think you can hear me. I've taken myself off mute. I'm just going to turn my sound up a little bit. I shouldn't really be asking questions because I'm a guest at this meeting, but it's a question that we've been asked. So if I could get the sort of categoric response from you, please, that would be great. We've had two questions from local residents of Edgbaston constituency, actually. One of them was whether they count their partner who is currently in hospital, and the other one was whether they should count their partner who's recently gone into a residential home. Now, I thought the answer to that was probably yes to the hospital and no to the residential home, but we said we'd find out, and one of my staff has gone off to do that. So it might just be a useful question for other people to hear the answer to.
Yeah, definitely. And everybody's individual circumstances obviously very different. The residential home is definitely that they would be counted there. I will check, actually, I'll get your details, or if you want to, I was thinking, I don't know if you want to put them in the chat, but I'll get back to you, because with the hospital, we do actually have a team that has the hospitals fill out there as well. But if there are any duplications in the sort of qualitative analysis afterwards, they can be sort of matched up. So if they did fill it in, for instance, it wouldn't be the end of the world because we would find that. But I will get the proper response for you, just in case it's different. But if you drop me your email on that.
Thank you.
But just to say, there are lots of different accessibility things that you can get in large print. It's adaptable to screen readers if you need a paper copy. So really, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for everyone to take part, and it is for everyone, even if anybody that's been in this country for over 3 months. So don't feel like it's just, it has to be someone who was born in Britain or has lived here all their life. It's actually for anybody who's living here right now. And the findings are so interesting. Like last time, it found that there are over 494 ethnicities living in Birmingham. And we're such a diverse city, but it's the only sort of survey of its kind that really gets to the root of the snapshot of our society. So, yeah, anybody else, or...
Dominic's put his hand up again.
Not actually me this time.
Hi, Alison. My name's Bethany. I'm a youth. I'm a youth worker, and I was at a forum this morning, and they discussed something interesting around the census, and this might be interesting for others if they work in the same environment. Around 16 plus people who are 16 and above can access a code for the same household if they. Sorry, I might not be getting this right, but they don't agree with whatever their parent guardian or their care home might have wrote on their behalf. I didn't really understand it from there, so it's quite.
Yeah, what that's about is, for the first time, there's a new question around gender identity, and it's a voluntary question for anyone over 16. And so just say that for probably more privacy reasons, that people want to fill it in and maybe they haven't come out to their family or they don't know, then they can request their own copy and fill it in separately, because they might feel that actually they don't want to do it as a family and say what they feel their gender identity is. But yes, anybody can request their own, and then like those duplications will be cancelled out if somebody's submitted their own and they're on another family one. But that's mainly around the it's the first time we'll actually ever get a result about how many people see themselves in the trans sexual community. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, that's really helpful, because I actually work with trans non-binary young people. That's the group that I run, so it makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that.
Okay. Well, if you want to put your details in the chat, or I'll put mine there, please contact me, because I have more information. If they want like to do a virtual chat or anything, I can do that, because Census Day is the 21st. But if just say you haven't got round to it, then you will have until into April to do it. So don't feel like, oh, I can't do it now. Just do it as soon as you can.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be definitely beneficial for them. Thanks.
Definitely email me then. I'll put it in now.
Thanks, Alison. I think Samantha's got a question.
Hi.
Samantha, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I've been asked, Alison, to ask you this question on behalf of a resident of the road I live on. We live quite close to the Queen Alexandra College, and there's a fair number of people who live close by who are blind or visually impaired. Now, they've been told that there's information available about the census in Braille, but the form itself is not available in Braille. And the woman I spoke to said it's all well and good. I can ask someone to read it out and they can put my answers down, but I'd like to do it myself, and I'd like to do it in Braille. And I just wondered if the form was going to be available in Braille for those people. I've been asked to answer the question, so.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did, and I will double check that about the form being Braille, because I knew that there was Braille available for some of the documents, and I'm not completely sure whether there is one in Braille, but I will check. But if it isn't at this point, then it probably won't be, and I'll have to probably go through a phone, and I'll get other people to help them.
Yeah.
But I will double check that, because I thought maybe there was, but I will find out.
Yeah, when we phoned up, we were told there's an information leaflet that's in Braille which helps you fill the form in. But I think the point this lady would like to make is, she's a lady of a certain age, she's quite independent, and she'd like to do it for herself in a format that's available to her. And it's a particular problem in this part of Quinton because we are so close to QAC, which is as you know, a college for people, particularly who have visual impairment. So I said I'd ask and pass it on. So thanks for that.
Thank you for that, because that does help, especially if it can't be changed this time for the next time. But I will check if there's any way around that. If it's not in Braille, if there's anything maybe she could do to fill it in herself in another format, even if it was verbally or something. But I'll
thank you.
Samantha, have you got is your email in there?
I put my email up earlier for
I'll go back through the chat.
Yeah, it's there. Thanks a lot, Alison. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for that, Samantha. And thanks, Robert. I can't see any other hands up. So thank you very much for coming along this evening, giving us that information. That's really useful. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
So next on the agenda, I've got a bit of a double act. So we've got Marie Brown, who is our constituency engineer, and I've also got Sergeant Mark Short, our local sergeant. I'm going to actually ask Marie to go first, and I think Marie is going to give us a little bit of information about roads. Now, I've been very interested in a number of roads around Quinton at the moment, because on my regular walkabouts, I've been completely dismayed, A, with the number of potholes, and B, with the speeding that I see, which I'm sure Sergeant Short will address. And one of the things that I'm really pleased, and I'm hoping Marie will be able to tell us a little bit more about this, is about the work that we are going to undertake on the roads down the valley. So Simmons Drive and Highfield Lane. And we've got a fantastic project coming, something which I know residents have been asking me about for years, which is about introducing some traffic calming along that valley road, because a lot of vehicles choose to go down those roads rather than go down Quinton Road West, which does have bumps on it at the moment. So Marie's going to tell us about that project, and then also just about Quinton Road West. I think you're going to be able to tell us. I have reported it endlessly, and particularly after this last cold winter and the frost that we've had, the potholes are appalling. So a week last Friday, I walked the length of Quinton Road West and we've reported the whole road. And I think we have got Stuart with us, who has come from Cllr Highway. So after you've spoken, Marie, I might bring Stuart in, because I know that my number one fear about Quinton Road West is the fact it just needs dealing with and resurfacing, but I know it's also the number one on Stuart's list as well. So Marie, can I call you in first, because I do realise you do have to leave us because you have another meeting to go to.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Councillor. Good evening, everybody. Councillor Booth, Marie Brown, Principal Local Engineer Highways. Yes, as Councillor Booth just says, I've been working closely with Councillor Booth the past couple of years, and we are proposing to implement some traffic speed cushions along Simmons Drive and run into Highfield Lane and Dwellings Lane. A lot of complaints. I personally have received a lot of, because of the layout of the road, it's like a bit of an S shape. It's a lovely sort of raised track, if I can use that word. So the local residents have had a lot of concerns and issues about that, which they have brought to my attention over a number of years. I've had meetings on site with the previous MP, Councillor Stewart. Preet has raised a few issues, and of course, Councillor Booth, even former Councillor Gregson. So I'm perfectly and well aware of the issues. But as I said, working with Councillor Booth, every member councillor gets a little bit of money to spend on the highway every year. And Councillor Booth has been sort of banking her money, so to speak, because we do get a lot of requests from all sorts of groups, members of the public, residents, councillors, MPs, asking for traffic calming measures, because we do get a lot of complaints about speed in traffic and the volume of traffic on the road. But of course, we've got to go by statistics. I, of course, work closely with the police, or we're sending them emails about speeding issues, and the public do know it's a police matter, but they come to us because they want some physical measure implemented, i.e. traffic calming measures, cushions, chicanes, signs. So as I've been working with Councillor Booth, she's banked her money. So the proposal is, as I said, to implement traffic speed cushions along the main stretch, Simmons Drive, Highfield Lane, Dwellings Lane, and we're very proud of this scheme. I am now in the process. We've already got the monies confirmed. We are dipping into this year's money, 2021-22, and of course the budget doesn't start until the new financial year, April. So nothing can start physically until at the earliest May. But I have started developing the scheme. If any of the residents are here from any of those roads I've already mentioned, they would have received a letter from me and a drawing showing the proposals. So as I said, the scheme's been proposed, the money is there. So now I'm at the stage now where the scheme is going to be formally advertised, which is a legal requirement, in the press. The advert will run for 3 weeks. It should be in the press by end of April at the latest. Council us engineers are very busy this time of year spending the money because, of course, come to the end of the financial year. So it should be in the press by the end of April. The advert should run for 3 weeks. Provided we get no objections, the scheme will be awarded to a contractor, which I've already found, and I've already awarded the work, so to speak. And all being well, they should be on site once they provide for the notices to use the traffic management on site. They should be on site for about May, June, definitely by July at the very latest. So that is where we are with regards to last year's work or proposal, as well as dipping into this year. With regards to general state of the road, yes, I'm glad Stuart is here. He can probably tell you a bit more. But with the end of the contract with Amy a couple of years ago, you've probably seen a lot of footway or some carriageway or patching being carried out. Head office, in conjunction with Cllr, Tarmac, are addressing or trying to address all the roads which are really in a dreadful or in need of resurfacing. So they've come out to us, local engineers. We've got the eyes out on the local areas, and we know our area, and we work closely with the councillors and asking us for any locations. So I sent an email straight away to all my councillors asking them the same question. Have you got any roads you think in your ward which a dreadful state needs resurfacing, footway as well as carriageway, please let me know straight away so I can bat it over to head office. So we are aware that the highway is deteriorating and we are tackling it. And all being well, as I said, they've already started some areas already. That is the good news, and that is the proposal for the future. At this stage, has anybody got any particular questions they'd like to ask me, or anything else, Councillor?
Oh, I can see Elliot's got.
Oh, hello, Elliot.
Hello, Marie.
Good evening, Elliot. Good to see you.
Good evening. Thanks. It's a comment. The footpath along Court Oak Road from George and Helen's to the pub has just been relaid. I assume that comes under you as well.
Yes.
Yeah, my comment is that they made a superb job of digging out and laying a really sound foundation. The little curbs that hold the verge back from the footpath couldn't be straighter. You can stand at one end of the road and view the straight lines.
Yeah.
The problem I've got is that when they've laid the tarmac on top, they've laid it in an appalling manner. It's full of dips and hollows, and the result is it holds water. And after having invested so much, this isn't a patch. They've invested a lot of money and a great deal of effort in putting down a foundation, and then they haven't finished the job properly, in my opinion. I don't know if you've looked at it. No. I mean, today, when it's icy, of course, these little pools become little skating rinks. But if as you walk along, the same thing happened on the other stretch of Court Oak Road that was done some years back down to the swimming pool. But I think that was just a sort of resurfacing job. You know, they scraped the top off it. And, yeah, and that I thought, well, okay, you know, if you're patching it. But this really, I was disappointed that a really excellent job was spoiled at the finish. If you'd have a look, I think that's.
I'll have a look. When did they finish the work, Elliot?
I think it is now finished. I mean, it's measurable in almost days.
Oh, right. Okay. It's very recent then.
Very, very recently. Except somebody's already dug a piece up for, I think, a block drain or something. You know, it's it's. I think they're magnetic. They pull in the work.
Right. Okay. I'll look into that, Elliot.
Thank you.
Look into that. Anything else?
Oh, any other hands up? Thank you for that, Marie. It is. I'm just so pleased that after all these years of both myself, Councillor Gregson, I think Councillor Clancy, Gisela Stewart, the previous MP, Preet Gill, present MP, you know, talking about that stretch of road, that we've actually got something happening. That's fantastic. And I'm going to bring in Stuart in a minute to talk about all the work that we're trying to do around the ward with the potholes. I can see Patrick's hand up. Patrick.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. Marie, thank you for that update. Were you going to say something about Quinton Road West? I'm a Quinton resident. I live on Quinton Road West, and that stretch from South Island.
Yes, I'm right. Yeah, but with regards to Quinton Road West, Councillor Booth has submitted a list of roads, and Quinton Road West is part of it. I mean, I drove up there myself, and I know it's in a dreadful condition. So I'm hoping that will be one of the first ones to be looked at and included in the programme of works.
That's great. Thank you, Marie.
Thanks very much for that, Patrick. I've got Barry next. Barry.
Oh, hello, Marie. You all right?
Oh, hello, Barry. Oh, good evening, Barry. How you doing?
I'm well impressed with the change from Amy to Kia. It was a privilege to see the work that Elliot's referred to being done, and the relative speed with which they've done it. And I did have a chat with one of the site managers who said there's now a collective thing that goes on with all the utilities to try and avoid putting down paths that are then dug up a week later to put utilities in. What he said was quite interesting, because he said that there's like a 2-year moratorium between laying the tarmac and anybody being able to dig it up, which was quite strange, because actually if my utilities had gone down, I'd want the bloody path dug up to replace my utilities. However, the just simple point I want to make is when when people come in to do work, I think it needs a very careful check on the finishing. I didn't know Elliot was going to mention the tarmac because I didn't notice that, but he would with an engineer's eye. But what I did notice was that the edging strips of the paths, which look tremendous, there's various edging strips missing. So and I noticed that, I think we noticed that as well up at Woodgate Valley, that where you put the in this case concrete edging slabs along the paths, some parts are missing and the grass actually grows out over. So if you could just check when you go round that the finishing is there.
You're on mute, Marie.
Sorry. So easy leaving it on mute. Yes, I'm going to go out and have a look at Quarter Road, especially like that job just recently finished.
Yeah.
So, but drop me an email about the other location. Where was that, Barry? Just drop me an email. You've got my email address.
It's maybe something sunk and we can't see it because I think there's wood on one and concrete on another. I have to say though, I'm well impressed with what I've seen of the replacement of Amy with Cllr. There's a lot more activity going on. So well done. Yeah, brilliant.
Good, thank you.
That's great, Barry. I'm going to bring Dominic in and then I'm going to ask Stuart across here if he wants to say anything. Dominic, or is it Bethany?
Very, very pleased to hear, Councillor Booth, that you managed to get down to Quinton Road West and have a look at the state of the road there. I don't
think I'm ever off Quinton Road West.
Yeah, I went down there as well.
With the number of potholes on the road that have been there for a while, you could spend a lifetime reporting them. I just wanted to quickly seek clarification on that. I think you mentioned that road has now been reported. I just wanted to get confirmation on exactly when it was that we reported Quinton Road West for repair.
Okay, so I can come in. I report that road, I think, endlessly. I think Marie will back me up on this. It's been on my agenda since I think I first came into the ward in 2014, and it's been a constant. I think the particular problem with Quinton Road West is as you go from West Boulevard towards Four Dwellings School, it's particularly bad on the left-hand side, which is the side of the carriageway which falls into shadow most of the time. So particularly where you've got the dual carriageway bit, that particular side is particularly bad because I think it gets colder and it gets more frozen, it gets more churned up. But it's just a constant on that road. And then again, I think roads down the valley, there's a lot of issues about the roads also that come off Quinton Road West down towards World's End Road. They're particularly bad. If you look at those, the junctions bad as well. And then World's End, the roads in the ward are a constant. So I regularly go out on regular walkabouts, and I think I set out to do Quinton. The last time I set out to do Quinton after the last big frost, I planned to walk the whole length of the road. I'd given myself over 2 hours to do it, but I actually only got from the pub end to about number 199, 200 before I had to turn back because it took me an hour, just that short distance. So it is a constant. So just be aware. I mean, I spend my time doing my walkabouts, getting my exercise around Quinton and walking those roads. So it has, I don't think Quinton Road West has ever been off my radar, Dominic, let alone with just coming onto it. I'm going to bring in Stuart now. That's fine. Going to bring in Stuart from Cllr. You're getting some praise here, Stuart.
Good evening, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, thanks for the nice start to the meeting. So Stuart Cross, highway student from Cllr. I'll give you a very quick overview of the contract before I go into the specifics, and hopefully I'll try and build up to the grand finale with Quinton Road West. So, in Feb 2020, Cllr Highways were appointed to manage the interim highways service contract from April last year until June 21, with the potential for an extension to that contract. Okay, so the overview is the contract includes the traffic operations, reactive maintenance, inspection, the winter service we just finished, or it's still going on, but obviously getting a bit warmer now, so less gritting going on. It covers about 2,500 kilometres of footway and 5,000. I'm sure that's not right, but Yep, so 846 structures, 3 tunnels, 94,000 street lighting columns and 78,000 highway trees. So, so far, since April till December, across the city we've spent, or the city has spent £90 million has been invested in renewing sections of footways and carriageways, with another 32 million being spent this year. In just 6 months, we've spent over 81,000 square metres of carriageway has been replaced and 24,000 square metres of footways also repaired. And what else we got? Right, so that's a bit of a general overview. Now let's get to the good stuff. So the most important one, obviously, Quinton Road West. I've had confirmation, not surprisingly, obviously it has been, hopefully, I would expect the whole road to be resurfaced. I know it's large scale resurfacing is planned. It's with our design team now. We're doing currently core sampling to decide how far we need to go down. I know in some spots you probably even see the bottom, but in general, it's with our design team now, and this will be delivered this summer. I haven't got a specific date at the moment, but this will be done resurfacing in the summer, which is obviously fantastic news. And yeah, thanks for your patience, whoever, everyone in Quinton has to deal with this road every day. Yeah, we do still carry out, obviously, you will see our teams on there doing the emergency repairs. So we still, for the real bad ones, we are putting temporary tarmac in there on a monthly basis. But with such a big stream planned, there's no point doing any more small patches. It's really down to the bigger streams that's going to happen in this summer. So that's the main, obviously, Quinton Road West in for the summer. More recent stuff, well, as well, you've got Dorsey Road. That's happening at the end of this month. 600 square metres are down for that one. Highfield Lane, again, end of March, 800 square metres. Quinton Expressway, that's having some large scale repairs this summer as well. And in May, also Overdale Road, the whole carriageway is being resurfaced down there as well. So, yeah, a lot of big streams at the moment. And yeah, this will continue. As I say, the interim contract is initially up until June, but there'll be a new programme of works to be delivered from June going forward from there, which obviously a councillor will be made aware of when that's delivered. I have, probably the same as Maria, I've given my thoughts on what roads should be in there and what footways. So hopefully that will be considered when they decide citywide on the programme. So yeah, any questions? I'm sure there might be a couple.
Stuart, did you say, is any Simmons, Highfield Lane or Dwellings Lane, are they imminent?
I haven't got confirmation of Simmons.
Okay.
No, Dwellings, I don't think so. Bear with me for 1 second. No big streams. I'm sure there are some smaller stuff on there at the moment, but yeah, not for any large scale on Simmons or Dwellings. No, not at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Thanks a million for that, Stuart. It's glad to know that my emails have not gone unheard. That's fantastic news. And that we have noticed a complete sea change, actually, with the takeover of Cllr from that dreadful Amy contract, which was negotiated years ago in a different administration, but it's been an absolute disaster. And I know Amy are having to repay the City Council over more than 200 million, as rightly they should, because they've just left our roads to rack and ruin. So it's great to have you here. I know you're on a kind of interim contract at the moment, but Cllr put up a really good show at the moment, so I wish the company well when they bid for the full one. Elliot, you've got your hand up.
Yes, good. I thought, Stuart, the sums of money involved were massive, 90 million and 32 million, I think you said. But actually the question that goes through my mind is, but what will it take to make the roads right? Is 90 million just a scratch, or is it actually a real...
Well, I suppose this is only from like April up until December, so that's the initial investment. There will be, because of the contractual issues under Amy, the carriageway streams didn't quite happen as they would do on a normal programme, so you will be having more regular programmes of repair. So as opposed to doing the smaller patches, there will be the bigger streams. Obviously, it's not a limitless supply of money, but there's going to be, and I think Marie sort of hinted at this earlier, a bit more of a holistic approach to see what really needs doing. Let's get it done, and then
But that's my question, really. What will it take to get the roads in Birmingham right in money?
I can't answer that, unfortunately. I would like.
Because what I don't know, Stuart, is whether 122 million over the first 2 years is actually going to make an overall difference. It addresses the immediate and urgent, but you know, if the maintenance is actually behind the degradation,
If you want
we're
to
in
send
trouble.
me an email, I'll get that email forwarded to Wazim Zafar, who's our cabinet member, and he can respond. But really what Cllr are having to do now is to step in to cover up for the absolutely appalling behaviour of Amy, who signed a contract with the previous administration and really just took the whole of Birmingham for a complete ride and treated us absolutely abominably. And we are now having to play catch up. So I'm just delighted that we got Cllr on board, are able to do that.
Just
so
one quick point. Okay, yeah, sorry, Councillor. What we can do, Marie, if you like, obviously the guys who delivered the Court Oak Road scheme recently, I'll be able to speak to some of their supervisors, and if you want to arrange for a joint meeting, we can take them on site and see where the issues are. And obviously there'll be some snagging, and hopefully it's not major snagging that Elliot mentioned, but yeah, let's see what's on site. So if not, we'll speak later in the week.
Yeah, well, we could discuss it on Friday, because I'm seeing you on Friday, aren't I?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, okay, Stuart. Yeah.
You're using our meetings to make your arrangements. That's great. Thank you. I am very keen now. Thank you so much. And I do realise you do have to leave us, so thank you so much for your input. I do want to bring Mark in now, because I think a lot of the work around roads, around particularly the work that Marie is doing, and that I've been desperate for us to do on the cushioning and the traffic calming measures. I'm sure it's going to be music to Mark's ears. Mark's our new sergeant in the area. When I say new, you've been with us over a year now, Mark, haven't you? But he might be new to some of you, because I don't think he's made it to any of our Ward 4 before. So we're delighted to have you. I'm sure you're very relieved to hear about what's happening on that Valley Road, because that I know from the conversations I have with residents is a key area. So very welcome, Mark. And if you'd like to kind of give us an update about well, I know what the hot topics are, but you will too, what the hot topics in Quinton are at the moment. Thanks.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mark Short, the neighbourhood sergeant for Quinton and Bartley Green. Obviously, from this meeting tonight, I can see that one of the main issues is the speeding. Whereas in a meeting a couple of weeks ago in relation to trying to deal with the speeding, especially around Quinton Boulevard and that sort of area at night time, boy races. What we're looking at doing, obviously at the minute, because of the COVID, we're struggling to get a number of teams together to do it. So early April, we're looking at setting up with the traffic and getting a local speed watch set up again, so that we can see and gather evidence towards where the main issues are. Obviously, the speed humps and that's coming in, that'll make a massive difference to us. Obviously, I don't want to take up too much of your time in relation to what the issues are. I'd rather just answer relevant issues that you can bring to me rather than go through, because I cover Bartley Green and Quinton, which there's a number of different issues there, which will take a lot of time. So if there's anything relevant today that I can answer, I'll do my best.
Sorry, it's just taking me a while to come off mute. Mark, I think the issues that I'm finding hitting my mailbox most are around how we're managing crime and disorder. I know there was a dip in crime at the start of the lockdown, but I've certainly been a creeping up of that. We've got a number of issues around antisocial behaviour, particularly, I think, around youth. I think you've dealt with the speeding, and I think a lot of people, we're just getting into that time of year where we start to have issues around motorcycles, particularly in the Valley area. So I wondered if you could just talk us through those things, the motorcycle driving, antisocial behaviour and crime and disorder in the ward.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
I'm sure others will come in later.
Antisocial behaviour, we are having a lot of that, as you say, with the youth around 4 acres and that sort of area. We have, in conjunction with the council, identified a number of views that are causing it, and they've all been sent warning letters under the ASB powers. So that is the first stage. The second stage is we're going to do a joint visit to all the youth's addresses. Some of the families have come back to us saying it's not my kids, but we've identified them on body cam when they've run off from us and CCTV. So we know who they are. We are dealing with them through antisocial behaviour, getting warnings that if they don't keep their children under control, they're looking at eviction. And then we're going to set up again once we come out of lockdown, early April, hopefully, we're going to have a day of action in and around that area where we'll have a mobile police station for people to come out and speak to us, and hopefully in conjunction with the council to try and target some of the other issues that we're not being informed of. Following on from that, the off-road biking through the valley, we're getting it there, and other parks. And again, in conjunction with the council and parks, they have got some funding to put fences up. So we're looking at fencing it off to stop people getting in with the bike, and we're trying to identify who the owners of the bikes are to again issue ASB notices, and if appropriate to get warrants and search the premises and seize the bikes. That answers those two questions. And the rising petty crime and disorder that's happening, we've I know everywhere has, but West Midlands have had 365 new police officers out of the so far, and we're looking at about another 150 in the next 12 months. This week I've had 5 officers who are student officers, but they are independent, which has added to my team another 5 officers across the 2 wards. So we can start getting out now and being a bit more proactive and trying to resolve a lot of the issues. It's not an answer to everything having more officers, but it just means we can be in more than one place at a time, which will hopefully help.
Yeah,
any
and
questions to that?
It's really good when you've got a high profile as well. I think people feel very reassured at seeing uniforms actually on the street. I've got 2 hands up. I've got Samantha and then Patrick. So Samantha first.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I made that beginner's error earlier.
It's all right.
Mark, can I thank you first of all for the work you're doing and ask you about 2 particular crimes in the area that seem to be on the increase. We seem to have a resurgence now of people having their catalytic converters stolen from cars. I speak as someone who's had this happen to me. That was a very prevalent crime a few years ago, and it's coming back. And I know that's across the world and across Harborne as well. And the second thing I wanted to ask you about was something that's particularly affecting our older residents in Quinton, and that's the question of fraud at the doorstep, in particular with the rollout of COVID tests, people knocking on doors and offering COVID tests to people in exchange for money. And that clearly frightens a lot of people, that sort of fraud that's being done. And now I know most fraud have to be reported to Action Fraud, and I'll reserve my comments about the inadequacy or otherwise of Action Fraud at the moment. But I just wondered what was going to happen across the 2 wards to reassure people, in particular the older residents.
Okay, obviously that's news to me about how prevalent that is. I think I've 2 reports come through to me about it happening. So if somebody could send me some more details of what has gone, I'll look into that. No problem. And I can get some door-to-door reassurance done and go around and speak to these people. Get my PCSOs to go out and get some leaflet drops to make people aware, not that in no way are they charging people on doorsteps for for this type of thing. Your doctors will call you in, or they're free of charge. There should be no cost. So if you could send me some details of that,
Will do.
I'll look into that.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for that, Samantha. Patrick.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you, Mark, for that. The West Midlands Police website has a fantastic resource where you can look at recorded crimes at a very low level. So we've been looking at crime levels and trends since COVID started using those data. And there's two very clear signals in those data, one of which you've actually alluded to, increase in antisocial behaviour. And it's really encouraging to hear what you're doing about that. The other one, which is particularly odious, is there's been a huge increase in sexual crime, which is massively worrying. And I just wondered whether there was anything specific that was being done by West Midlands Police or in Birmingham or specifically in Quinton around dealing with sexual crime. Thank you.
Okay. Obviously, the rise in the sexual crime has seemed to have come about because of people being unable to go out and do other things and get about. So a lot of things are happening in-house and are being reported a lot more. I think there's a push from our public protection and serious sexual offences teams into putting some funding into dealing with IPs and trying to get IPs to come forward and report it more, because it was a big issue years ago that it was underreported. So I'm hesitant to say that it's increased. I think it's just the recordings increased because more people are happier to come forward and report it. So it is a push from the specialist teams in relation to getting people to talk to us more in relation to it.
Thank you, Mark. That's in posh terms, that's called ascertainment bias. And I see there's a question for you from Becky and Kerry in the chat box. They're clearly too shy to appear on screen. It's about the Quinton police station and what's happening with it.
Right, Quinton police station. That was out of our hands. It was forced from senior management that they were cutting police stations down. I'm led to believe it has been sold. Don't know what for or who to. I know I had a request 6-8 months ago from somebody who wanted to set up an office there for some community work, and I put them in touch with estates to try and work something out, but I don't know. I didn't hear anything back. So it is being sold. It's not going to be used as a police station anymore, is all I can say. I don't know anything more than that.
Okay, thank you, Mark. That's really helpful.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. I can't see any other hands up at the moment. So thanks very much, and thanks for coming. I hope you become a regular feature of our ward forum. So thanks very much for joining us today. That's been great. Okay, I'm just pulling up my agenda. Oops, got the wrong thing there. I think it's probably me on next. I just want to check those. Sorry, my computer's very slow. I've got so many bits of paper open on it. Right. Yes, so I was going to talk to you about the Celebrating Communities Grant Fund. So I am going to now attempt to share my screen if I can get the right thing up. This might be it didn't want to do it earlier, so let me see if I can find the right thing. Let's see if I can do this. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to show you a little video, but this is being very slow. Otherwise I will have to just talk you through things. So let's give this a go. So let's see if that works. I don't know whether you can see that. Can you see that screen? Every community from Northfield to Newtown. Can somebody shout up if you can see it?
Yes, Councillor Booth.
Great.
I can see it. Yeah,
Let's see it go. All right.
Kate, is there meant to be audio with this? Because I can't hear anything.
Councillor Booth, we can't hear anything.
Hi, I think my understanding was that you didn't get the volume there on that, so I'm really sorry about that. I've never had to share a document that had sound with it before, so I do apologise. What I will do is I'll put that in and share that with Beverly, who can send it to you. But I think it was covered in the subtitles. There was nothing additional that was being said that wasn't actually there in the subtitles. So that gives you an idea of what that fund is about. So if I just kind of run through, it's celebrating communities. It's open for constituted, unconstituted and grassroots community groups. You can apply for funding to support activities which will enable the community, Quinton, to carry out local activities, cultural events, sports, recreational, street parties, picnics, community celebrations. The projects need to show an alignment with one or more of the following themes, and there are three. One is get active, so about getting communities getting out, getting active, participating in sport and recreational activities. Barry, you know, I'm thinking about your Mooga. Second one is ready, steady, fun. So delivering community projects to ensure our local area is games ready. Hosting community celebrations in Quinton to develop active citizenship and reduce things like loneliness and social isolation. And then finally, third category is celebrating culture. So that will be developing Quinton community-led cultural events and initiatives that encourage particularly intergenerational activities. You need to harness the power of culture to bring together and celebrate identities, culture, heritage, and stories from our communities. So the bids that you can make, and as I said, they can be grassroots groups, they can be constituted groups, they can be unconstituted groups, anything from between £100 up to £10,000. Now in Quinton, we have got, and I think I'm right off the top of my head, about £28,000. And once it's gone, it's gone. So we're looking for projects to say as small as 100, as big as 10,000. The funding has got to be committed, not spent, but committed by August 2022. However, if there's a problem with COVID restrictions, then there will be a bit of leeway on that and extensions given. So there's a lot of chance. What I'll do is I've got a paper that I can get out to people about things. So, for example, what kind of things of funding can be used to cover, which could be core costs, essential running costs. It's giving something extra to your business as usual, if you want. It can be revenue costs, it can be on new projects, it can be on existing projects, it can be on one-offs. They can support for-profit businesses as well as not-for-profit. They can support national programs. They can support projects based outside of Birmingham. What they can't do, sorry, is can't do things outside of Birmingham, can't do things with for-profit businesses. So everything's got to be things within Birmingham. The applications for round one, and this is really important, applications for round one will be accepted until the 1st of June. Now, the 1st of June isn't that long ago. There will be quite a lot of advertising going out about this. But when we go into Purda, it then becomes a bit of a political football. So it will go a bit quiet. So I'm going to get this out to everybody. And if you could get it onto your other groups, because we've got a few weeks now before we go into Purda, then it will go quiet until the elections at the first Thursday in May, and then there's only 3 weeks. But we don't have to spend money before then or after then. There'll be a second round which comes in after that, and that will then move around, starts in October, working towards the summer. So there are 2 rounds, but we don't have to spend half the money now and half the money later. It doesn't matter how we do it, but we have got that money to spend, and we have got until August 2022. But the projects will all need to be ready. So the final closing date for submission will be January 2022 for the second round. So I need people to start getting ready to look at that. So what I'll do is I'll ask Beverly to get the little clip I showed you and the briefing paper to you, so you can start to think about how communities that you're working with, groups of people, whether they're big, little, small, large, can actually start to work with that and do that. So that's my first thing. Has anybody got any questions on that? I've got a strange screen now. It's not the same as the one I had before I was sharing, so I can't see anybody's hands up. Can somebody tell me if anybody has got their hand up, because I've just got a totally different screen now. No. Okay, so there might be a bit of a problem. So I'm going to go through second things that I want to go through. So we'll make sure Beverly gets that out to everybody. So I think we've got Paul Moore with us from Tours, but I'm not sure, is he in a position where he's able to share with us?
I am,
yes,
I think,
you are. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Paul Moore. I'm Assistant Director at the Active Wellbeing Society. I just wanted to update the forum on 2 issues to do with the Quinton LIFT proposal funding briefly. The first one is to do with the notice boards, and the second item is to do with the proposed community website, and I'm happy to take any questions at the end. First of all, on the notice boards, we do have 2 that are installed already, one at Highfield Farm Recreation Ground and the second one at the Quinbourne Community Centre. We have been working with residents for a while now to try and find suitable locations for the second 2 notice boards. You'll see a list of sites that have been considered and rejected for various reasons by Highways and the landowner. What we are recommending is that the 2 remaining notice boards are installed by the Parade of Shops on Quinton Road West, and also on the green, which is located on Ridgeacre Road West. There are 2 other potential locations that still could be considered at the moment, which are Quinton Meadows and also Quinton Recreation Ground, but the suggested recommendations we're bringing forward this evening are for the location by the Parade of Shops and also by the green. Second slide is just a map just to show you quickly, with the blue arrows being the 2 proposed locations, with the yellow pins on the map and the 2 green pins being the existing locations of the 2 notice boards. Just before I move on to the second item, I would just like to thank a few people for getting us to this point of having suitable locations for the notice boards. First of all, Councillor Booth, who's been very helpful in working with us to go back to Highways and challenge them on a number of locations that had previously been rejected. Also to Barry, Peter, Vina and Elliot as well, who've helped support us to get us to this point. Just quickly on the second item to do with the website. I've recently met with Elliot Hurst and Barry Husband, as well as our Chief Executive, as a result of a previous forum meeting where some concerns were expressed that there'd not been enough community engagement work around whether a Quinton website was still needed as part of the Quinton Lift Fund, and also whether it was still relevant. There were also some concerns raised about the way in which the draft website had come about and also how it would be maintained. That is a brief summary of some of the issues that were discussed. However, having had further discussions, the Active Wellbeing Society have agreed to do an e-survey, an electronic survey, in which we ask residents about the ways in which they currently communicate in the Quinton ward and keep in touch, how they would like to keep in touch in the future, and whether they would still like a community website. As part of this work, we're aiming to engage with 2,000 people across the ward, and there'll also be some in-depth telephone interviews with residents across the ward. Now, this doesn't mean that we'll have 2,000 responses, but what we are keen to do is to engage with a broad range of people across the ward to get a representative sample of views. We'd also like to send out the survey through existing networks, including the forum, and any help from members of the public in circulating that information would be very welcome. We'll also send out a survey link to Beverly, who will then circulate it to forum members as well. We've also spoken with the Quinton Conversations group and also the Active Quinton group, who are aware of this, and Councillor Booth. And what we'd like to do is bring the results of the survey work back to the next forum meeting. And then we're hoping to have the results of that survey by mid-April. So we'll come back to the next available meeting to present that and also to then present a recommendation on the way forward with regards to the website. So that's two very brief updates, but I am happy to take any questions. I think somebody's asked for my email address, which I'll put in the chat bar in a second, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Paul. I'm not seeing any questions, and I'm also acutely aware of the times. It's rapidly moving towards 7:30. So I don't think we've got Carol Unwin with us at the moment to give us an update on the rec. Barry, I don't know whether you would like to do that. Are you? Shall we?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Barry.
Yeah, very quickly. We need to revisit some of this stuff because I wasn't quite happy with some of the things just said. However, with regards to the recreation ground, as people know, most people in here know already, there's now been a further delay and it doesn't look as if it will be worked on until mid-April, which means we've missed Easter for the phase 2 to be finished, which is very, very disappointing. But I assume it will go ahead, but I never count my chickens till they're hatched. So very disappointing, but maybe we will get there. So thanks, Kate.
That's fine. But we have got that outdoor gym equipment coming for adults, so adult side gym equipment coming, and we've also got a big grown-up teenager, big person climbing frame coming. So it is disappointing, but on the other hand, we have still got restrictions in place with COVID. So, you know, we should get there. We should be ready, and let's build up towards the time when we can all come out of lockdown and meet freely to picnic on Highfield Rec and play on that gym equipment and play on that new climbing frame. So let's look very much forward to that. I am very aware of the time, but I'm also aware I've not covered, or we haven't gone through some issues that I've got outstanding. Patrick, you've got your hand up. Please be quick.
Just say, I wanted to big up Catherine Hewitt and the Edgbaston Neighbourhood Network scheme, because since they've arrived on the scene, along with tours, they've been absolutely brilliant, and we've got funding. We've had funding from them for all sorts of things, and she's absolutely relentless in her support. So thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, you've been a complete game changer, Catherine. It's been just lovely having you and Gateway Services on board. Is there anything you'd like to say before we finish?
Yeah, only that that's brilliant to hear about the funding you just mentioned, Kate. That's great. I'll make sure that we promote that to all our contacts that we've got in Quinton and Harborne and Edgbaston, because we cover the whole Edgbaston constituency. We've now got more than 150 assets on our asset register, which we're really pleased about. We had 30 when we took over just over a year ago. So we've increased that by 120. And when I say assets, that's groups, activities, organisations. But we do also have some funding. So very, very briefly, if you are or you know of a group that could do with just small amounts, maybe to buy a bit of equipment, maybe to do a bit of publicity, maybe to pay for a bit of training, maybe to buy some PPE. We've got some micro grants. We can give up to £500 pretty quickly, pretty easily. Get in touch with me. I've already put my details in the chat in terms of the earlier question about the census. But I'm very happy to circulate my details. We've got a website, www.gatewayfs.org. You can contact us through that. And we've also got some money at the moment around food. This needs using up as quickly as possible. It's emergency assistance money, so it's very much based on emergency response. But if you know of a group that could use a grant to purchase food, to buy ingredients because they're maybe preparing meals for people, it might be that they're buying essential supplies such as toiletries or sanitary products. We've got some money for that as well, and that money needs to be committed by the end of March. So again, get in touch with me, please, because we don't want to give this money back. That would be an awful, awful shame. We want to spend it in good ways. That's it. That's quick.
We know the need is out there. So let's make sure that Catherine and Gateway Family Services get to know where it's needed. I'm aware that we've still got some bits and pieces around the ward plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a chat predominantly with Elliot, who's brought it to my attention. And what I will do is I'll make sure that the elements that we haven't covered today, we've got through quite a bit of what's on our ward plan, are dealt with, but also I'll just have a chat with him about how we manage this and maybe into the next meeting. I'm sorry it took so long to get this ward meeting arranged after the last ward meeting. Beverly, who helps and supports us with this, has done an absolutely brilliant job, but the city has gone from having 40 wards to having 69 wards, and the team has actually got smaller. As you know, the very sad loss of Ken last year. So a huge thank you to Beverly for getting this arranged. I'll start working tomorrow on when we're going to have the next ward forum. I envisage that will be after the elections in May, but we'll try and do something after, say, May the 10th. I think will probably work best when we know who our two councillors will be. I think I saw two hands up. Did I see Dominic? Did I see your hand up? No. Did I see Barry's hand up?
Yep.
Yep. Briefly, Barry.
I'm glad to hear that you're calling a new ward meeting, Kate, because I would really like to see where the agenda is coming from members of the public. And whilst I appreciate all the inputs tonight, and there's been some very good ones, I would like to see that the agenda that is really from the residents is higher up the list of at the agenda, especially with such a short time.
Right,
Can we do that?
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to be working on this. As it's me, I'll arrange the next one, and there'll be two of us hopefully running it. So yeah, get your agenda items to me, kate.booth@birmingham.gov.uk. I'll get Beverly to make sure you've all got that. I'll speak with Elliot about the issues I know he wants done around the ward plan, and we'll aim to get a next ward forum sometime in mid-May, if that's all right with everyone. Can I thank you all for coming tonight? Can I particularly thank everyone who's taken part and done presentations? You've done a splendid job. It's really great to see everyone here. It's great to see everyone looking so well in such difficult times. We're not quite looking at the sunlit uplands yet, but we're moving forward. We're moving there. It's fantastic to have our schools back this week. I'm so pleased. I was in a special schools forum today, and we've got our special schools with 93% attendance this week, which is just absolutely awesome when we consider what some of our most vulnerable children have been through. So I'm delighted that that's all right. Can I thank everyone for coming this evening? It's been lovely to see you all. I look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting, which, as I say, I hope to get on the cards sometime as early in May as we can, but we will do it after the elections so that we've got the new team in place. Thanks very much for coming this evening, and thank you, everybody. Good night.